Welcome back to our study on Moses, God's faithfulness in the wilderness. This last week we looked at Moses' encounter at the burning bush. Hopefully you discovered something new in your reading this last week. Maybe that piece about Zipporah might have been completely new. But what we saw there was Moses had a radical encounter with the living God at the burning bush. And today I want to bring that event a little bit more to life and give you some extra insights into it. I'm going to read from Rediscovering Israel by Christy McClellan. So this is what she has to say. There are only 7 times in the entire Bible when God calls a person's name twice. Each time he is about to radically change their life. One of these occasions happens in Exodus 3, when God calls out, "Moses, Moses." I want God to call my name twice. Whatever your name is, whatever the truth is about who you are, whatever is going on in your life, God is not afraid to affiliate with you, to join his name with yours. He has the power to change your life. God always meets his people where they are. He absolutely refuses to leave them there. So after reading this little piece of information, I began to wonder, what are the 7 times when God calls somebody's name twice? So I'm going to share those 7 instances in the Bible that we see. The first one is Abraham. You may know a few things about Abraham, but one pivotal piece in his life is when God tells him to sacrifice his son Isaac. And the moment where God calls Abraham's name twice is when he's at the top of the mountain, about ready to kill his son, and God stops him right there and calls out, "Abraham, Abraham." The next instance is going to be with Jacob. God tells Jacob, and he calls his name twice, "Jacob, Jacob." He's reassuring Jacob that it's okay to go down to Egypt, and he's going to see his son Joseph there. The third time is the one we've been studying with Moses. God calls Moses' name twice. And in these 3 instances here from the Old Testament, their responses are, "Here I am," when God calls. The next one is Samuel. You may be familiar with the boy Samuel and how God speaks to him and calls his name. At first, Samuel doesn't recognize that God's calling his name, so he goes over to Eli and he says, "Here I am." But then Eli catches on that it's really God calling Samuel. So he tells Samuel to give this response. Say, "Speak, for your servant is listening." So that's what Samuel says when God calls his name twice. Now we're going to move on to the New Testament when Jesus is calling somebody's name twice. And our next one is a woman. It's Martha. Jesus speaks tenderly to Martha and says her name twice, "Martha, Martha." And he goes on to say, "You are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." Our next one that Jesus calls twice is Peter. Now, Peter is also known as Simon, so he actually says, "Simon, Simon." And this is the time around the Last Supper, and it's before Jesus is about ready to tell him that Peter's going to deny him 3 times. He goes on to say, "Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat, but I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail. And when you have turned back, strengthen your brothers." And then our last one, our number 7, is going to be Paul, who's also known as Saul. And Jesus, this is after Jesus has risen again, but Saul is going to have an encounter with Jesus, appearing to him on the road to Damascus. And he calls out to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" Now, all 7 of these instances were going to be pivotal moments that the person that God was calling, they're never going to forget that encounter. And God doesn't leave them there. As Christy McClellan talked about, he doesn't leave us where we're at. He calls us to more. He moves us more. He draws us closer to him when he calls us by name. So as you look back at these encounters, think about your own encounters with the Lord. Have you ever heard him whispering to your heart? Maybe he may call you by name, or maybe he may say daughter to you. Whatever it is, if God calls you in your heart, then respond back, "Here I am." Be willing to go wherever God may call you. Be willing to say or to speak or to reach out to someone. Whatever God's asking you to do, when you know it's really Him, be willing to respond back. Now, I want to give you a heads up for your homework this week. As we move on to our next week of homework, it's going to be all about that encounter with Pharaoh and Moses continually reminding him that he needs to let God's people go. So this week in your homework, you're going to read some more scripture. You're going to be reading through some bigger chunks of scripture. And if you want to listen to that instead, you can. We're going to kind of breeze over these first 9 plagues and dig in a little bit more to that 10th plague. And then we're also going to look at that epic moment when God parts the Red Sea.